Ours is a quick video response about this article that I found out about. So this U.S. Marine was in the Philippines, and he picked up some prostitute, this Filipino prostitute that he thought was a woman, but it was actually a man. So it was a transgender, Filipino transgender prostitute that he picked up. Took her over to the motel, and then she dropped her pants, and then he found out that she was actually a man. Then he ended up choking her and then drowning her in the toilet, killing her. He admitted to it, and now they're trying to figure out what they're gonna charge him with, what type of sentencing. There's a huge uproar in the Filipino community protesting it. And if you want to take a look at it, check out the link in the below this video, and you'll see just my quick comments about it. I mean, it just goes back to what I talked about. You know, the article said that he was a trained boxer, but boxers don't choke. Boxers punch. Okay, boxers don't kick. Boxers, punch. So he's a trained boxer, but he's also trained how to choke and kill people. Who? What do you want to call that? You know. But anyway, it goes back to what I'm talking about with the cage fighting. How, like, the ground fighting with this choking and stuff like that, these are very deadly and serious techniques. I say some of the most deadly unarmed combative techniques that you could do, the most deadly one would probably be the choke. I mean, because you're actually taking somebody's life away. And another deadly one is just basically dropping somebody on their head or neck on cement. Body slamming, or like picking them up and just like dropping them on the top of their head, on their neck, because they could become paralyzed or just die right there. So the choke is extremely dangerous, and in this situation, out of anger, there's no tap outs, there's no referee to stop it. This is the real life. When you're filled with anger, choking somebody is the worst thing you could do. One of the worst things you could do. I mean, when it comes to weapons, obviously shooting somebody, stabbing somebody is gonna be just as bad or worse. It's gonna be worse. Okay, but as far as unarmed combat is concerned, choking somebody when you're angry is like the worst thing you could do. Okay, if you would have just punched her, then she probably would have lived. When you're angry and you punch somebody, there's a good chance that they're gonna live. I mean, sometimes you hear stories, like I heard about a story. I think it happened in Russia, where there's a fighter, and then some guy was like messing around with his girlfriend, and then he got upset at the guy and punched him, and the guy fell back and his head hurt. Hit some type of pipe, and then he ended up dying. I mean, you hear about stuff like that, but it's rare for somebody to die from a single punch. Okay, so I'm not advocating for people to punch people when they're angry, but it's a hell of a lot better to punch somebody when you're angry than to choke them to death. You know what I mean? Like, there's domestic violence. Sometimes, adults might beat children, or a man might beat a woman might beat a man. But if a woman or man is angry at their partner, they should not shoot them, they should not stab them, they should not choke them. Okay, if anything, they shouldn't even punch them. But punching them at least is not going to be nearly as deadly. If they push them against the wall or whatever, like, it's the thing is, what I'm talking about is the lack of control out there, and people are not responsible enough to know when to use which technique and when is it justified. you know um and now the person, he's gonna be in jail for many years. If this happened in the US, he might possibly be in jail for the rest of his life. But because it happened in the Philippines, I don't know, maybe they might make his sentence only like 12 years, 14 years. We don't know. But fact of the matter is, um, it's never right to take somebody's life just because you're angry. I mean, this prostitute was not posing a threat to him. You know, um, she probably just embarrassed him like crazy, and then he just got so upset that he didn't know how to handle the humiliation and embarrassment and anger, so he just ended up choking and killing her. And this is a Marine. This is like somebody that was hired into allowed into the U.S. military to represent America, and for that to happen, it's even worse. This is not like somebody who's a prisoner. This is somebody that was supposed to be, honored and respected in America, and then he goes ahead and does something like this. So, if he could do it, then obviously a police officer could do it. If a police officer and he could do it, if a soldier could do it and a police officer could do it, then a regular person on the streets could do it. And I feel that a lot of us, you know, as far as combat sport is concerned, they're not properly educating people like when to use these techniques and when not to, and how to be responsible with it, how to have control with it. I mean, typically, pretty much they just throw the people in a cage and just let them go at it with full of anger and rage, basically breaking people's arms, choking people to death, and you know, as long as there's a ref there to stop it, then everything's fine. But out there in the streets, there's no such thing. Even with this whole recent fight with the Ronda Rousey getting knocked out by the Holmes lady, it's like Ronda Rousey was all pissed off right before the fight. She wouldn't even touch gloves with Holly Holmes. Right there, she should have been already disqualified. She should have already forfeited the match, because that's a huge disrespect. It's like, you guys didn't even fight yet, and you don't even want to touch gloves. If you don't even want to touch gloves, then you shouldn't even be allowed to fight. You should be you should count that as a loss. So here she's all angry before the fight. She's fighting out of anger. She's not in control. She wants to body slam her. She wants to choke her to death. She wants to break her arm. I mean, this is what we're learning from this type of culture that we live in, as far as like expressing unarmed combat is concerned. Now, the government and the politicians are not concerned about what's happening in the cage or MMA or martial arts. They're concerned about gun violence. That's what their main concern, and that's the real concern, because basically, that's you know the unarmed combat is an extension of the armed combat. So if you see people being irresponsible with unarmed combat techniques, then obviously they're going to be irresponsible with firearms too. And it's just like, there's not proper education on people on how to handle these types of stressful situations. Just because somebody gets you angry doesn't give you the right to just shoot them to death, stab them to death, choke them to death. And this is a hard lesson, and hopefully people can learn from this and be like, hey, you know what, like, this is the streets. There's no tap out on the streets. And when you choke somebody and you kill them and you're not justified in doing so, you could go to jail for the rest of your life. That's something really serious. I mean, that's some serious stuff right there. So it's like, this is just an eye opener. This article is just like an eye opener, just to keep people aware about what they practice, how they practice it, and just being intelligent in knowing when to use it and when not to use it. And also, overall, the entire practice of the martial arts, of wushu, of kung fu, it should be aimed towards like getting you to be less confrontational, more peaceful, less aggressive, less angry. It should pretty much be aiming you towards fighting less, if not just not fighting at all. If you're training and all of a sudden you're getting more aggressive and you want to fight even more, then there's something wrong that's going on with your training. You're not training properly. You're being misguided. So I just wanted to share this article as an example, of what happens out there in the real world. outside of the entertainment industry. These situations, it's a life and death situation a lot of times, and especially with all these guns going on, things like that. And that's why I don't mess around with the ground fighting, because I take it very seriously. Because when somebody takes you down to the ground, you don't know what they're trying to do to you. I assume they're going to try to kill me. They're going to try to choke and kill me. So then basically, it puts me in a position where I have to do whatever I need to do to survive that situation. So ground fighting is extremely dangerous. Choking techniques are extremely dangerous. And this article illustrates that point very well.